We had a little bit of audio video syncing issues there last time. Let me know if I still look and sound like a kung fu movie. In which case, we're just going to quit. No, I won't quit. But you may have to deal with me looking like a kung fu movie. Alright, let's go ahead and do our group sharing, and then we'll get to the part where I tell you what we're doing. Alright, let's not delete the post, let's share the post. There's a great idea. Bear with me, folks.
Okay.
Yep. Let's see. Alright. Ironman Mark 4. Build continues. Continues. Oops. Alrighty. Whew. Huh? Sharing out to our groups here, folks. I think the audio might be messed up still. Let me know. We are going to be building. Does my audio look okay? Are we still getting the lag in audio? Let me know what you see out there, since I can only see what's going on here, and I don't feel like I'm lagging, but you know, the signal may be. It happens. I think it might be time to update my streaming machine. That's what I'm thinking. Alright, let me get this out to our groups. And then we will go ahead and start building. Bear with me, I want to make sure I don't share it to the garage sale groups. I don't want to think that this is for sale at garage prices. Garage sale prices, I should say. Hold on. Can you all hear me? Does everything look good? Or do I look like I'm, like I did earlier, like I'm in a bad kung fu movie with bad overdubs? Almost. Almost there. Got one more group that I'm looking for, and Facebook is not making it easy for them. There it is. There they are. Hey, okay. Whew. That was exhausting. Actually, I went for a bike ride earlier today, so I'm a little exhausted. All right. So I think we should be good. Does the audio seem to be syncing up with the motions, with the mouth? Does it look weird? Does it look weird when I do this? All right. So let's build some stuff, shall we? Okay, so let's pick up where we left off earlier. We've got this nifty Ironman suit here over my shoulder that I was going to work on the ab section today, but I think this afternoon. But I think instead of doing that, we're actually going to do some close-up magic. And do some electronics work here that we're going to need for the repulsors and for the eyes that go in the helmet. And at some point, we'll pull the helmet down. We'll saw his face off. So that'll be fun. In the meantime, let's jump down to the table and work on our close-up game here. Alright, so I've got all my pieces here that I need. I don't think I need this. We'll put this aside for the moment. Got our soldering gun here, or our soldering station, I should say. And we've got our wire. We've got our position sensing Mercury switches. We'll be using those to create positional awareness in our circuit, so when you put your hand up, the light lights up, and when you put your hand down, the light goes off. Which, as I have said before, does two things. It allows you to create a system that will, respond like it would in a normal Ironman situation, where the repulsors come on when he puts his hand up. And at the same time, it's going to help conserve your batteries, so your batteries for your repulsors don't wear out as fast. So these are what's referred to as a cob LED. I'm not quite sure how they work, other than the fact that there's 3 or 5 little lights in there that you can see, the actual LED light, covered by this yellow little blip. The nice thing is they're very thin. So this makes for a very thin and yet very bright repulsor. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead wire these babies up. Oop, need that. Yep. Alright. 2, 4. I think that will say 2. Yeah, we need 4. We need 2 sets of repulsors here. Alright, put those aside. These are our batteries that we're going to use to test our circuit. So let's get some wire. That is step 1. I'll need my wire strippers, so let me grab those real quick. Definitely need these. And length of wire. Well, let's start there. So we're going to need from the center of the palm to about 5 or 6 inches away from the wrist. And the reason is because we're going to want room for this to hang out of the palm. So whether we put a circuit throughout our entire suit and hook it onto a centralized circuit, or if we do the isolated battery packs, which is what I'm going to do for these, we have plenty of room to create a distance between the Gauntlet and wherever we hook it into, so we can push that wire down the sleeve or down the forearm and hide the connector. So that's probably about a good length right there. And that is about 8 inches. So we're going to need 2 sets. This will be to the repulsor in the palm. So I'm going to need 2 reds and 2 blacks. We'll come back to that later when we create the battery packs. Now, for those of you who don't recognize this, these are actually the centers out of the little battery case out of the those little LED flashlights you can get. Get them like a couple bucks a piece at Harbor Freight. And again, they have the cob LEDs in them now. They used to be little LED lights, which worked great too, but those were about 5 times as thick as these cob LEDs. Again, still worked, but these work even better because they're so thin. All right, all right. Wire, which we will come back to later. All right, let's go ahead and strip the ends off of these. About 1/8 of an inch. Off of each end. You can go a little longer than that, 1/4 of an inch. Wouldn't hurt either. Give you a little more room to work with. Okay. I'm going to take a black one and a red one. I'll twist the ends up just to seal those wires together a little bit. Okay, let's turn on our soldering station here, let that heat up. We're going to also need a heat gun. Pull that right down. And we'll need our helping hands complete with magnifying glass. Alright, so just a quick recap while we're waiting for that heat gun to heat up. What we're working on is the repulsors that we're going to put into the palm of this gauntlet. Okay? So basically the way that we're setting it up with this Mercury switch is that when the hand is down like this, so when the hand is down like this or like this, the repulsor does not come on. It stays dark. All right. With the Mercury switch, when we raise our hand either into the firing position or, you know, just to say hi, or the photo op, the repulsor comes on automatically. And then when you're done, you put your hand down and the repulsor turns off just as automatically. So that's what we're doing. And that is all controlled by the magic of Mercury switches. And they're called Mercury switches because they literally have a little drop of mercury inside a glass tube. Now let's go ahead and pull these out because we're going to need 4 of them. And I'll just give you a close-up view of one of these. Alright. I don't know if you can see that or not. The autofocus is probably not focusing on it because it's so small, but when you tip that, you'll see the mercury runs to the other end. See that? Just that little drop of mercury in there. And mercury, of course, is a liquid metal, very conductive. So it is a switch that is controlled by position. Alright, our soldering iron has heated up, so let's grab our solder. and our cleaning pad here. Nice shiny tip. That's what we want. You know what? I'm actually going to put this over here on my right. There's no reason to reach across my body. That's kind of setting myself up for a burn. Alright, so I'm going to clamp this down here in our extra set of hands. The positive lead goes in the center. I just happen to know that because I've put a few of these together. Alright, solder is all lined up, or the wire, I'm sorry, the wire is lined up. You don't want to put too much heat for too long on these, on any LED. So just enough to flow it on the wire and the LED itself, and then back away. Alright, now we're not going to put, so there's our first solder joint. Okay. Now we're not going to put the wire on here. What we're going to do, because we want this thing to switch on and off as we raise the repulsor, the attitude of the repulsor. So this again would be pointing down, this would be pointing up. So we're going to take our Mercury switch, which I know it's kind of small, you're not going to be able to see it, but I'm going to take one of the leads on the side of this and put it in the general shape of the outside curve of our LED package here, because the outer perimeter is made of metal, and that's actually the negative part of the LED, the negative surface, that silver ring you see going around the outside edge. So we will go ahead and get that lined up right along the edge of our LED, and then clamp it down here with our helping hand. Take our solder. Okay. And now let me show you what we have. Okay. So you see we have this. This camera is really terrible. It's not showing you much detail close up, mainly because it's focusing on everything else. Let me see if I can get it to focus like on something closer. Or maybe it's just too close. I don't know. Will it focus on my hand? Okay. There we go. So you can see the Mercury switch is right there on the perimeter. See how we've soldered that in there? And notice the orientation of the Mercury switch itself is pointing straight up. Now, we're just going to take that and move it over to the center.
This is in the laundry.
Shouldn't be.
Doesn't even wash it.
I'm going to move it over to the center. Be gentle, because you don't want to break the leads. They're fragile. I mean, they're not super fragile, but if you torque or tweak them around enough, you run the risk of breaking them. Alright, so there you can see how we've got it closer to the center and still pointing straight up. Okay? Trying to move this so it's in focus. You know what? Let's do this. Hold on. I think I may have a solution for this. Ooh, actually, you know what? There's a piece that's bigger over there. Let's grab that piece. I'll take this scrap piece of foam here and hold it up in front of the camera. I don't know if this will work or not. Can you see it now? Not really. And I think the dark color of the foam is freaking out the camera's light sensitivity. Anyway, so we've got the Mercury switch. The important thing is that the Mercury switch is pointing straight up. And that will create the situation for it to activate when it's up like this, as opposed to it being down. All right, let's connect our other wire. Now to the end or the other lead, I should say, of our Mercury switch. I'm just going to wind them up together here. And then we'll cut the excess off the end. And then we're going to solder them, so they stay together permanently. Alright, we'll let that cool down. And now, I always like to put some batteries in my battery pack here and just double check that our electronics all still work properly. Otherwise, we'll put this thing all together and find out it doesn't work, and that's not very productive. Alright, so I'm going to just go ahead and let it hang down like that, and then with our battery pack attached, you'll see that the repulsor is not lighting up. Okay? It is unlit until we tip it up. And there you go. Sorry, my hand's not steady on the battery pack here. It's not the electronics. So again, down, repulsor's off. Up, it's on. And that is as complicated as it gets. So again, down. The battery, I'm just holding the wires on this battery pack, so never mind the vibrating light phenomenon. So down, off, up, on. Okay? All right. So, the test is successful. Let's move on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my glue gun, which needs a battery. You'll find those lights on little flashlights. Harbor Freight sells them. You can get them at like Menards. I think Home Depot sells them too. But again, they used to have just the regular LEDs in them, like a ring of like 5 or 6 LEDs, and now they come with these cob LEDs, and you can see how thin these are, which makes for a really flat repulsor, which goes nicely in your glove or whatever you're using for a gauntlet, and makes it much more compact. Alright, so I've got our hot glue gun on, and now I've positioned my leads in such a way where they won't touch each other to short each other out, and that is the package that we're left with right there. Hopefully you can see that. A little bit of focus. Focus! Alright, so we're going to use hot glue on this to create a bit of a buffer, and with the hot glue we're going to attach, if I can find it, it was here just a minute ago, We're going to take a thin piece of foam. This is a 1mm piece of foam, and we're going to back our repulsor up with that. So basically what we're going to do, when this glue is hot enough, is we're going to put some hot glue on here, cover it up with the foam, and when the glue cools, we'll trim the foam around the edge of the repulsor, and that will be done. We'll be ready to make another one. So let's just give our glue gun a minute here to get ready. It's almost there. Got a little extra glue on the end here. Let's clean that off. There we go. And as I said before, this is the gauntlet that I use. And this is what we'll be putting these into. A gauntlet just like this. You can see we got plenty of room in there. We'll use thermoplastic to create the lens that our repulsor will then sit in. Alright, how are we doing here? Are we ready yet? Let's check. Not quite. Alright, while we're waiting for the glue gun, I guess we can go ahead and get our wires set up for our next one. We'll just put that aside. Let it continue heating up. So again, we're going to attach the center wire. There's in this particular cob, there is a resistor that's built into the circuit. You see that little dot there on the bottom? I put that to the top. That helps me keep things visually aligned, so I know I'm pointing everything up. So I'm going to do that with this positive lead, or the hot lead as it is. I'm going to aim that straight up, and then we'll grab our solder. We'll solder it in place. Looks like our soldering gun went into standby, which means it started to cool down. So now we're waiting for the soldering gun or the soldering iron to heat up. Alright, looks like our glue gun is ready, so we'll put this aside while we wait for our soldering iron to heat up. Alright, again, make sure your leads are not touching anything in here, the exposed metal pieces. And we're just going to put a good bit of hot glue starting at the center and just kind of work our way out. And then we'll take our piece of 1mm foam and sit it right down on it, and then press it down and hold it. Don't worry if you get some that leaks out of the side of the repulsor, because when we trim off the foam, we'll trim off the extra glue too. Okay, it's looking good. Glue is still a little soft, so we don't want to pull too hard on this foam until that glue is nice and set. We'll let that go ahead and keep cooling off, and then we'll go back to our soldering iron here, which should be all ready to go. Okay, and it is. Let's grab our solder here. For those of you that do solder, you'll already know this, but for those of you that don't, the key to a good solder joint, one of the keys, is to make sure that you don't disturb it until it cools down a bit. It doesn't have to cool down completely. And also, another indicator of a good solder joint is it's nice and shiny. See how shiny that is? It's not dull and cloudy on the surface. The shinier it is, the better the connection. The better the connection, the less resistance there is in the joint, which means it won't drain your battery as fast. And like I said, if you solder, you already know that. Alright, so let's grab another one of our Mercury switches here. We're going to form one of the leads to follow the edge of the negative part of our repulsor. Alright, and I'm going to thread it underneath the edge of the red wire. Again, keep the attitude of the lead for the Mercury switch pointing straight up. And then we'll grab our soldering iron. We'll attach it to the outer perimeter of our light LED here. Doesn't take too much solder, so just put a little bit on there, and as soon as it nails down, it's good to go. And there you can see we've got another one attached to the back of our LED. Again, keep it pointed straight up. Just going to push it gently to the center. That's where we want it to live. Again, emphasis on gently because it is easy to break the leads on these Mercury switches. Now the good news is you can get them in bulk on eBay, so if you do break a couple, it's no big deal. So there's a couple of ways to do that. In my personal suits, I usually run a circuit through the entire suit off of one large battery, like a 7-volt, and then I'll use voltage drops to knock the voltage down to whatever I need it to be. So I'll start with the highest voltage I need, and then I'll knock it down in places where I need to by putting the voltage drops in line with the circuit. Where, you know, like for these, our example are, I believe, 1, 2, 3, they're 3, 4, 5 volt. They're 5-volt systems. So I'll drop it to 5 volts off of like a 12-volt battery source, and then I have battery enough to power different things throughout the suit, and only one battery is needed. In this particular case, yes, I'm going to create a system that will allow the wearer to just wear this battery pack in their forearm, somewhere on their arm, with elastic. Probably sit like this, and then it connects to the repulsor. So they put this on, then they put their forearm, and the leads hang out. They hook it up, push it into their forearm, and they're good to go. It's more cost-effective system, where the other one has a lot more wire and a lot more work, and a few other components. All right. The last suit I built for myself was like 3 or 4 years ago. Most of the suits I build are for other people. So I had a centralized power system, but lately I've been seeing the light, no pun intended, to centralize or decentralized power systems like this, for example. This arc reactor, which is slowly dying in this chest plate because I've used it quite a bit, including all day today. It's been on, but it's totally everything's integrated. So the light, the container, the arc reactor itself, and the power system is all in one little package with a switch on the outside. These repulsors, same thing. What I'm really looking to probably do at some point is put the hand plates, attach the hand plates to the back of the Gauntlet, and then put the battery pack underneath the hand plate. So everything is on the Gauntlets. You just strap them on, flip a switch. Actually, you don't even need to flip a switch because they're Mercury Switch activated. So, and then the lighting system for the helmets. My helmet, that's got a 7-volt battery in it. That again with a voltage drop, and that helmet will last like a good 4 hours lit, which is great. So yeah, decentralization is a good thing. Back to the table. All right, so we have made our second repulsor package here. I'm going to fold this lead down here and then bring it back over the top, keeping our Mercury switch in the center. And then same thing. I'm going to need this foam here, so I'm going to take this little piece here off the side. And we'll hit this with a... Oh, we forgot to test it though, didn't we? Alright, let's give it a little test here first to make sure it still works. And then we didn't get things too hot. Yep. Helps to have the right polarity. I'm like, it doesn't work. We fried it. There we go. So again, off, on. Whew, that's bright. Let's face it that way. Off, pointed down, on, pointed up. Works perfectly. Alright, let's make this thing one nice little self-contained unit. Spot of hot glue. Actually a good spot of hot glue because we want it to go all over the place. And a piece of foam on top of that. A little bit of pressure. Awesome. Good to see you, Aaron. We got a viewer on YouTube that's checking us out, saying that they are enjoying the electronics stuff, so that is great. I was actually in the Navy. I was in the U.S. Navy, and that was my education, my schooling, if you will, was digital electronics. So did a lot of soldering, a lot of troubleshooting. All right. So there you go. We've got a couple of repulsors. All we need to do now is trim this foam around the edge of our light. And you want to stick around, Aaron, because we're going to at some point get into animatronics as we move forward in our builds. And you mentioned 3D printing. I've actually got a 3D printer, large format. It's a raised 3D printer. Can print up to 2 cubic feet. Currently printing some stuff in the background. Not an Ironman suit, but that is on the docket. All right, so cob light. Back is nicely sealed off with a piece of foam. Our electronics are inside. And now, whether it's a 3D printed or a foam gauntlet, or in my case, a resin cast gauntlet, that repulsor fits in there really nice. Again, we've got some thermoplastic that we'll be using to oh yeah, cool. Very cool. Well, thank you, sir, for your service. Again, this is Aaron Mensch. She's weighing in from YouTube, so that's the reason I'm talking to him, and all you people on Facebook are not really seeing what he's saying. But he's explained to me that he is in the Air Force, trained as cyber transport But his current mission is actually maintaining an IBM system from the 60s, lots of electronics troubleshooting. Yep, that was my system. I ran the gun control system on a Adams class destroyer. Alright, so there we go. That is the repulsor and where it goes in the Gauntlet. And like I said, we've got thermoformed plastic back here that we'll be using to create our lens. We'll get to that a little later. Right now, let's trim this repulsor over here. And then I'm going to show you next steps. Okay. Alright, that foam is a little too small to use anywhere, so we'll just discard it. I hate throwing away foam of any size, and sometimes you just can't use them. Alright, so we've got two repulsors here. So the next step is we're going to go ahead and give these wires a little bit of a twist, just to compact it a little bit. Don't want loose wires flying around. Okay. And there we go. There's one. Alright, and there's two. So now, what are we going to do next? We are going to put a piece of heat shrink on these, because after we attach them to our Dean's connectors here, we want to be able to shrink the tubing down to make a nice, tight, clean presentation. So I'm going to cut off about an inch, inch and a half times 2. Color doesn't matter. Use whatever color you want. I kind of have a tendency to default to the red and black. And then slide that over your leads. Let me ask you guys a quick question that are watching this. When we're doing close-up work like this on the table, is this a close enough view, or do you want a closer view? We can't do anything about it today, but it's just good to know for future. So if you need me to pull the cameras in closer and maybe come up with some way to, you know, to give you a little bit of a closer view of what we're doing, I'll set up future streams when we're doing, again, when we're doing table work or close-up table work, where you can see. If this is close enough and you're getting enough out of this, then let me know that too. It is easy to see? Good. Yeah, because the picture that I've got here on my stream feedback, I'm using OBS, which is the Open Broadcast software. For streaming, it's a real small picture, so I can't see, you know, the detail, obviously, if you're watching it like full screen or something like that. I'm kind of seeing about the size you would see it on, say, an iPhone. You'd like it to be a little bit closer. Of course you would. All right. Let me see what I can do between now and the next stream when we're doing, and there's always table work to be done, whether it's foam or electronics or whatever it is. So let me see what I can set up. I've been kind of daydreaming about how to do it and what I want to do, and I've actually seen a couple of other people that do this type of table work and their setups. I've seen some I really don't like, but then I saw one the other day that I did like. So I'm gonna look into setting up something to give me that kind of a view. Basically, it's just a directly over the table view, pointing down but closer. So, more on that later. All right, in the meantime, now here's something to keep in mind when it comes to hooking these blocks up. What you don't want to do is you don't want to connect the one that has the exposed pins to your battery source. And why not, you may ask? Well, let me tell you why. Because if you've got this floating around and you've got batteries hooked to it and it accidentally brushes up or sits next to something that's made of metal, all right, it's going to short out and at the very least run your batteries down. Hey, Mr. Jordan, haven't forgotten you. Still working on your sketches. And at the very worst, depending on the type of batteries you're using, they could get really hot and smoke and potentially start a fire. So you want to make sure that you use the exposed pins on something that is inert or doesn't have power attached to it by default. Okay? In this case, it'll be the repulsor that needs to plug into power. So remember that. You always want to plug into power. So the power side will be the female receptacle. Okay? Alrighty. Little safety tip for you. Oop. So, emergency change, got it. All right, will do, sir. Will do. All right, so I'm going to put the negative here on the top one and the positive on the bottom. And it's really up to you how you want to wire yours. Negative on top, positive on the bottom, but just make sure you're consistent and you hook it up on the proper side on the other part of your connector so it works when you plug it in. Our soldering iron went into standby again. It's good, conserves battery, but then when you go to solder, you're like, how come it's not working? And you're like, oh, because it's cooling down. All right, well, let's give that a minute. Anybody got any questions, comments, feedback? If you think I'm doing something wrong, please tell me. I'm always open to learning something myself. As much as we teach, it's always good to learn too. That's what keeps us young. All right, I think this is hot enough. Oh, I almost made a mistake here. So you see these little boots that come with these particular connectors? These need to go on first before you solder. Otherwise, you'll never get them on there. Yeah, soldering isn't difficult. There's just some principles that you need to remember when it comes to soldering. First of all, you want a nice shiny solder joint. That means your solder joint has the least amount of resistance possible because it's what's called a clean solder joint. And then the other thing is you don't want to apply too much heat to the wire or to the part that you're soldering into. Otherwise you risk burning and melting things that you don't want to. So that's why you get the soldering iron close to what you want to solder and you put a little dot of solder on the ironing tip and then touch that to whatever it is that you're soldering to. And then when the solder gets hot enough to stick, then it transfers the heat to the item that you're soldering and therefore gets it hot enough to accept the solder but not too hot to do damage. It's something you got to practice. And the more you practice, like anything else, the better you'll get. As soon as you see that solder flow and move, back away. And then that way, the amount of heat that is transferred to the part is minimal. And yet, as I was explaining, you get a nice clean solder joint that's nice and shiny. You probably can see that a little bit, I don't know. I need to figure out a way to make these cameras focus when you get close to them. Anyway, there you go. So now this boot that I put on here, we're just going to It's probably still a little warm, so let me grab my pliers. I burnt myself last couple streams ago. I don't want to do it again. It was with the glue gun, wasn't with the soldering gun. And then they'll just click, should click right into place. Oh. Yeah, we're good. All right. Might need a couple pairs of pliers on this. So let's do this. I'm going to clamp this one, and then we'll take these pliers. There we go. All right, yep, that works a lot better. Oh, wouldn't you know it? My heat shrink fell off. Oh well. These are actually heat shrinkless connectors, but I like to put a piece of heat shrink on the end anyway because it just makes it look a little more tidy. But there you go. So we've got our connector and our repulsor on this one here. And yeah, I'm not going to desolder that just to put a piece of heat shrink on. We'll put this heat shrink's on this one, so we'll just leave it on. Actually, I'm going to take it off so it matches. We'll put it on the next repulsors. We got to build 2 more. All right, I'm going to grab another one of these connectors here. Excuse me. Now what's funny is ever since I've been using Dean's connectors, I have a certain system and a way in my head that makes sense to always remember which side to put which wire on, positive and negative. And these are actually labeled, and they're exactly opposite of the of my way of connecting these. Doesn't matter as long as you're consistent, but I just find it interesting that they've got the positive label on the negative side and vice versa. Oh, dang it. All right, we got to take this off because I made a boo-boo. I forgot to put the boot on. So just heat the solder up, slide it off, and put the boot on. There we go. And now we go right back into soldering it back on mode. Now fortunately, we already have a little bit of solder on this wire, and that's what's called a tinned wire, which means you've already got some solder on it, so it should actually solder much more quickly, and as you can see it did. I kind of skip that step usually, but if you want things to solder more quickly, take the wire ends and apply a little bit of heat and solder to them, just enough to flow the solder into the wire strands, especially if you're using stranded wire. And then when you go to actually solder it to the piece, or the connectors, it'll grab that much quicker. It's kind of like priming the surface when we use hot glue. That first layer is for priming. Same concept. But I'm a good enough solderer where I can kind of do both at once. Tin the tip and make the connection all in one fell swoop. Alright, let's grab our pliers here, clamp that down just for stability. There we go. We'll twist this down. Alright, so there's repulsor number 2. Now we're going to apply our soldering to our battery pack. We're going to need some more wire. So I'm going to do about the same 8 inches. Again, we're making 2 sets, so I'm going to grab 2 of each color, black and red, all the same length. Okay, let's strip out our ends. Again, about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch off of each end here. One end is going to be for attaching to the battery pack, and then the other end will attach to the other side of our connector. All right. There we go. So I need a black one and a red one. The black is negative, so we're going to put that on the negative side of our battery pack, and you can tell the positive side has a little bit of a bump on it, kind of like a battery itself, whereas the negative is typically flat or a little bit recessed, or will have some kind of a divot in it. So I've got my positive wire here, which is the red one, and something to know about the battery packs is these metal tabs are actually held in place with a little plastic bump over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our solder iron first and flatten that plastic bump out, because when we heat this metal up to solder to it, it'll loosen up. If we don't flatten that out ahead of time, it'll loosen up the heat from the solder will actually loosen that up and make this metal plate fly off. Not dramatically so, but just detach. So that, taking the initiative and flattening that out ahead of time, I have found is the best route. And this actually came up off of the surface there because we didn't, I thought it was down, but it moved. So let me just move this back into place. All right. Alright, there's the positive side. Same thing on this side, is we're going to take our soldering iron and just flatten out this little plastic divot a little bit, just so it doesn't come up when we apply heat to it. And of course we'll need a wire to attach to it, so let's get one of those. Alright, and that has cooled down. Now, positive and negative, remember we want to use the female side of our plug now. So, let's go ahead and get our negative side lined up here. Alright, let's remember to put our boot on. before we solder. All right. Okay. There we go. That was quite a bit of solder, but it's really shiny. So I'm not going to complain about a little extra solder when it's that shiny. That is a good connection there. Alright, and then our last one, which we will attach to our top connector. And by the way, that little dot of solder that I told you about that connects the piece that you're trying to solder to the connector you're soldering it to is called a solder bridge, the technical term. Alright, so we've got this soldered into place with our boot down here. Let's go ahead and grab our pliers and click that boot into position. Here we go. And then we'll just give this wire a little spin. Now, if you're not using heat shrink, which obviously on this set we're not, then to keep the wire from coming untwisted down here at the battery pack, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit it with a little piece of electrical tape. Okay, keep it locked in, so let's go ahead and grab that. This is the good sticky stuff. I had problems with the other stuff coming undone after a while, and that wasn't good, so I paid a little extra to get the extra sticky stuff. Alright, so just an inch or so of that, which again the whole purpose is to just keep it from spreading apart. And there we go. There's our first battery pack. Now to make sure it works, I'm going to strip the batteries, and actually we'll use this now to test our other repulsors going forward after we create them. Let's armor it up with some batteries. And we'll plug in our repulsor. Moment of truth has arrived. Alright, so there it is in the down position. There it is in the up, or the firing position. Alright, relaxed mode, engage mode. And more accurately, hand down mode, hand up mode. Alright, tell you what, let's change cameras because that's not really good. Alright, there we go. Hand down, hand up, down, up. Boom. Alright, that one works. Let's check out this other one here. Down, up, off, on. Okay. And we've got plenty of room here where the person that is wearing it can put it pretty much anywhere they want on their arm. So, back to the table. Let's make another battery pack, shall we? Next one we'll use heat shrink like we should have on the first one. Alright, so this is a good looking battery pack. Again, I'm going to take my soldering iron and just melt that plastic down a little bit to make sure it doesn't pop up on us later. There we go. Alright, start with the positive side first because I've got the red wire. that's in place, so let's go ahead and hit it with some solder. And once in a while you'll get a rebel that likes to stand up anyway. So I'm just going to grab something to push this down, and then we'll remelt that plastic down. Is it toxic? Mortal Kombat mask, use water paint. If I use the gloss clear right afterwards, is it toxic? So are you meaning, will it be toxic to you if you wear them after they've dried? I mean, it's not going to be food safe. Anything that you're painting with, you know, with rattle can acrylics. But I think just for breathing purposes or having it close to your face, I think. Don't quote me on this, but I would wear it. I think you'll be fine. So, yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about it. But if you want to really be sure, I would do a little bit of research on Google, just to set your own mind at ease. Yeah, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not a chemist, so I can't tell you 100% for sure. Sorry. All right. So we've got another female side of our receptacle here. We're going to put the boot on. Going to get your boot on. And going to throw the negative on there first. Oh, congratulations. Oh, speaking of clients, I mentioned this morning. I know some of you are aware of my Etsy store. We have just eliminated shipping costs on everything on our store. Just because we're nice like that. So if you order anything from us, shipping is free inside the U.S. Can't help you outside the U.S. That gets kind of pricey kind of quick. But in the U.S., shipping is free. Again, I'm not trying to plug my store here. I'm just letting you know, for those of you who have expressed interest in the past, there's a little more incentive now for you to get something if you like. And if you don't like, that's cool too. So is it a 3D printed mask, Rolando, or is it a foam creation? Boom. There we go. I'm going to bet it's a foam mask. Alright, so there we go. Let's clamp this down here and put our boot on. Alright, give it a little twist. Foam. Cool. You're a member of Foam Club, right? Make sure you share it with the people in Foam Club so we can see and we can applaud your creative abilities. Okay, we'll need a little bit of tape here to lock this one down on the end as well. Yes, when you get it done, share it out there. Love to see it. Okay. All right, so there you go. We have 2 battery packs and 2 repulsors. Now the cool thing about these is, like I said earlier, they're nice. They're nice and low profile. You never know, man. You never know. I've never built a Mortal Kombat mask, so you might have me beat on those. So again, real low profile because we're using the cob lights, the cob LEDs, which is really great because there is not a gauntlet that this won't fit nicely into. And again, as you saw earlier, the amount of light that these things put out is insane. That's pretty bright, even underneath the thermoplastic that we use for our lens in our gauntlets. That's just that's incredibly bright. So can't beat it. Well, yeah, whatever you do, don't look into these things because they are quite bright, and I don't know how much light they kick out, but it's pretty intense. I don't want anybody burning their retina. All right, so let's see. We got about 5 minutes here before I end the stream. I'll go a little bit longer today because we got a little bit of a later start. I'm going to move straight into setting up these other repulsors, but I'm going to go kind of quick. So just if you want to come along for the ride, you're more than welcome. Here's the thing to remember when it comes to being good at this and anything, quite frankly. It's how much time you put in. Bruce Lee said, "Don't fear the man that's kicked 10,000 different kicks one time. Fear the man who's practiced one kick 10,000 times. That's the guy who'll take you out with that one kick." And that's basically what I've done. I mean, I'm not going to take you out, but this Mark IV, this has been my go-to suit. It's my favorite suit of all of the Ironman suits. The Mark 17 over here is a close second. War Machine, close third, who you can't see because he's behind the Mark IV. So because that's my favorite, I built that the most for myself, and then I moved on to building it for people that wanted one, you know, on a commission basis. So I've probably put in, I don't know, 10,000 hours. I haven't done the math, but it's probably close. And they say that if you want to master anything, you have to put about 10,000 hours into it. So, you know, I build the way I build because I've spent the time. I've invested the time in becoming that level of a builder. You do the same thing. I mean, it's really there's a you know, and I'm not going to promise that you'll be as good as me or anyone else, but you'll definitely be better. You'll definitely be better than where you are now. You know, if you've only been at this for a few months or a couple of years, with every piece that you build, and I'll be honest with you, that's actually what led to the number of builds that I've done, is because I was never happy with the level of quality that I was able to produce at the end of a build. I always tell people it's a love-hate relationship that you have with this hobby, profession, whatever it is for you. You know, the cycle for me goes like this. When I first built my first few suits, by the time I got to the end of the build, you know, my first couple 3 suits, let's say by the third one, after the second or third one, the newness of it was kind of worn off. All right. But I would get to the end of the build, and I'd be like, man, I'm never going to build one of these things again. What was I even thinking doing this? Because, man, that was too much work, and I'm sick of building Iron Man. All right? And then what would happen is I'd wear it a couple of times, and you get people who are like so excited about your suit, and they're making a big deal about it, and you're like, yeah, that's great, but I'm still not going to build any more of these things, right? And then you'd bring it home and you'd put it up, or at least I would put it up on display, like like you see these around me. And every once in a while, whether I'm just walking by or if I'm working at my desk or whatever, and I swing around my chair and I'd see these suits, I'd be like, it's kind of cool. I got an Iron Man suit. And then the next thought would be, where I could really make this better the next time? And then whatever ideas you had, you'd jot them down or just make a mental note. And you're like, yeah, but I'm not doing that anytime soon. And then three more weeks go by and somebody's talking about it and you're sharing your ideas for upgrading it or, making the modifications to it. And they're like, you start getting excited about it again. Next thing you know, you're building another Iron Man suit. And then a couple months later, you're like, why did I do that again? And back you go. That's how it works for me. It's almost like a healthy obsession. And for you Iron Man fans that have seen all the Iron Man movies, that's kind of where Tony was in Iron Man 3. Become a bit of an obsession. To the point of where he built, like 40 different types of suits? He didn't just build 40 suits, he built 40 different types of suits. House party protocol. I do have to say, though, that would be awesome. 40 different types of suits. Yep. I got a room for probably 20 along that wall over there. All right. Less talk, more solder, I know. Alright, let's grab our Mercury switches. Drop this under here. I know you are. You and a couple of other people. Bear with me, bud. I'll get them up there. Keep reminding me. That's all right. No. Keep reminding me because that's what I need. I remind myself, but not every day. If I got people like you that's like, hey man, one of those templates coming online, I'll be like, all right, I got to get them done. So Orlando keeps bothering me about them. But you're not bothering me. You're motivating me. See, there's a difference. So keep motivating me. Keep reminding me. And someday it'll be like, yo, they're done. And you'll be like, yeah. Okay, thanks for that template. Now what about the other ones? Wait, what do you mean the other ones? Alright. Alright, I think I've got enough time to finish soldering this one here. I just realized that, I just remembered that I've got some stuff I got to do outdoors before it gets dark. So, duty calls, as they say. And this is one kind of duty, but another kind of duty calls. I know. I said duty. Alright, let's solder that down. Okay, we're going to lay that down along the wire and then roll it over. Push that switch into the center. And that one is ready to glue down. Alright, gents and ladies, if there are any ladies out there. What? The Heartbreaker? One over here? Alright, I will make a mental note of that. Those templates need a little bit of work, and then I'll have to commit them to a digital format. So, point taken, point noted and taken. In the meantime, that brings us to the end of our time together this afternoon, folks. Appreciate you stopping by. Again, as always, like, follow, share, subscribe, join Foam Club, follow us on Laughing Dragon. Laughing Dragon's where we show off. Foam Club is where you show off. Look for feedback. By all means, we're here for you, and we want to, basically make you guys as good of builders as we can. At the same time, we look forward to learning and being wowed by whatever it is that you're creating and working on. And if you're looking for feedback, like I said, or critique or input or advice on something, we're here for you in that respect as well. I'm James with Laughing Dragon Foundries. As always, keep your glue hot. Don't burn yourself with it. Keep your glue hot and your hopes high. And we will see you at our next stream, which should be Thursday. All right, everybody take care, stay healthy, be safe.